Land of the free, home of the brave, the country of dreams. Everyone wants to live in the USA, right? Okay, well, everyone at least thinks Americans are great, right? Maybe not. Guess it really is impossible to please everybody. When nations hate Americans for one reason or another, it can cause some tension and problems. American ideals, politicians, habits, attitudes, and a plethora of other topics can lead to members of a foreign country harboring a deep hatred or distrust of America, and honestly, some of those feelings are justified. Today, we're taking a look at some of those countries that can't stand Americans. Maybe these shouldn't be near the top of your vacation bucket list. So in today's video, we are going to show you top 30 countries that hate America most. But before starting the video, I want to request you, we out best efforts to create our every single video. So please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start. Number 30, Greece. Debt-ridden Greece finds it difficult to embrace any American message of hope, as shown by the 63% unfavorable rating on the Pew Research survey. One recurring complaint among Greek natives has to do with public drinking. They tend to look down upon people who really let themselves go in public, which is exactly what a lot of young American tourists do when they visit. Greek natives feel disrespected by this sort of behavior, particularly in historical sites or other places full of spiritual and cultural significance. This does not mean that Americans are not welcome, but it does mean that partiers should be mindful of their surroundings and the impression they are making on local communities. In an effort to bridge the gap between these two cultures, many organizations have been started to educate travelers about proper etiquette while overseas. By connecting with locals and showing a willingness to learn more about their culture and history, visitors can start to show Greeks that there is still hope for meaningful interaction between Americans and Greeks alike. Number 29, Egypt. The U.S. backing of Hosni Mubarak and a failure to do anything about the overthrow of the Muslim Brotherhood leaves 85% of those surveyed by Pew Research with an unfavorable view of Americans. This hostile attitude has also been fueled by cuts to foreign aid to Egypt, which many feel is a sign that the United States is not a reliable partner. Despite this, there are still many people who believe that the United States can help bridge cultural gaps and open doors towards positive change in the Middle East. While it might be too late to undo decades of mistrust between certain factions in Egypt and America, continued dialogue and collaboration could potentially lead to improved relations over time. Number 28, Germany. Germans have a bit of a love and hate relationship with the U.S. In spite of a 70% unfavorable rating, many Germans simultaneously want to be admired by Americans. Like many countries, Germany has a perception that Americans tend to be lazy, messy, and too patriotic, which is true enough but is particularly rich coming from a country with its own history of extreme patriotism. There is still a dissonance between German citizens who believe America interferes too much in foreign affairs and those who yearn for admiration from the country they view as being on top of the world. While this tension exists, however, it's important to remember that citizens of both countries still share common values that can help create bonds between them. Number 27, Iran. Since 1979, when Iran seized the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, there's been no love lost between Iranians and Americans, resulting in a 61% disapproval rating according to MarketWatch. This has only been compounded by recent actions taken by the Iranian government, which has cynically pointed to civil unrest and protests within the United States as evidence of our supposed badness. Although it might be difficult to restore positive ties between these two countries given their long-standing animosity, it is important to remember that they both have a responsibility to promote peace and security in the Middle East region. If both sides can set aside their differences, open channels of dialogue, and work together towards mutually beneficial goals, perhaps it could signal a new chapter in their relationship. Number 26, France. France's disapproval rating for the United States is now at 67%. This level of animosity can make it hard for Americans to feel welcomed in the country, regardless how hard they try. French people have a general distaste for everything American, and this can be experienced firsthand by U.S. visitors. Despite this animosity, however, France remains an attractive destination for American travelers who are drawn in by its culture and landscape. We must remember that both countries need to recognize what they have in common and work towards amicable relations for all nations around the world. Ultimately, Only through mutual understanding and cooperation will we be able to bridge any gaps between our nations. Number 25, Jordan. American favorability ratings have dropped 13 points in Jordan since 2009, leaving 85% with an unfavorable view of the United States. This is particularly strange considering that Jordan is considered one of America's closest Middle Eastern allies. The Jordanian government remains explicitly pro-America. Despite this disconnect between public sentiment and the official stance of its government, many people in Jordan still travel to American destination cities, attend universities, and even volunteer their time and resources to support U.S. diplomatic initiatives. This suggests a more complex relationship between our countries than can be understood through simplistic approval percentages. Number 24, Italy. Italy was the first big news country in the Western world to shut down because of COVID. However, the United States did not follow suit, and now Italians view us incompetent as a nation and gave the U.S. a 55% disapproval rating, which is one of the worst ratings that Americans have gotten from other countries. While Italians were stuck in their small city apartments for months on end, we had Karens running around angry about wearing a simple face mask. We honestly don't blame them for not approving of us. That being said, we imagine that this won't stop Americans from flocking to Italy's many beautiful and historic tourist destinations. Number 23, Turkey. The 73% unfavorable view of the United States in a recent Pew Research survey may be partially attributed to the lack of significant assistance given to an influx of Syrian refugees. In 2009, former President Barack Obama was met with protesters when he visited the country. They were chanting that America was the enemy of all people and calling for him to leave. The absence of U.S. aid leaves this population feeling forgotten and underappreciated. While it is understandable that financial resources have been stretched thin due to global crises, it is essential for Americans to understand what ties us together as well as potential areas of disagreement. It is only through cooperation and mutual understanding that we can bridge any gaps between our nations and foster strong relationships with everyone around the world. Number 22, United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is yet another nation with which we have had a complicated relationship. Though it was not easy in the beginning due to the American Revolution, our countries formed strong alliances during both world wars. However, recent actions taken by America have caused us to enter back into a more hostile territory, with the UK polling conducted in 2020 gave America an overall disapproval rating of 55%. This demonstrates that it is essential for Americans to remain mindful of their global influence and recognize both what ties them together as well as potential areas of disagreement. It is only through cooperation and mutual understanding that we can bridge any gaps between our nations and foster strong relationships with everyone around the world. Number 21. Japan. Despite 2020 being an incredibly tumultuous year for the United States, the Japanese still have a slightly more positive opinion of America. According to recent polling, 54% of the population feel disapproval towards this country. While it is still concerning, it is an improvement from the 73% unfavorable rating given in other parts of the world. This demonstrates that despite all of this nation's mistakes and shortfalls, there are still areas of hope and understanding between us and other countries. It is essential that we reflect on our global influence and embrace cooperation between nations in order to make a lasting change. Through mutual understanding and fostering strong relationships with people around the world, we can be sure to create a more positive future for all. Number 20. Palestinian territories. The United States has long been seen as a full-blown supporter of Israel, thus causing displeasure among those in Palestine. This has been demonstrated in multiple surveys where the country had an unfavorable rating between 66% to 72%, depending on the source. Although that is somewhat of a drop from the all-time high of 80%, it is unlikely that it will reduce significantly when people still associate the U.S. with being an ally and supporter of Israel. It is essential for this nation to recognize how their actions are perceived by other nations and take action to bridge any gaps in understanding. Number 19. Russia. Relations between the United States and Russia have been notably strained since the end of the Cold War. The latest Pew survey revealed that 71% of Russians felt unfavorably towards this nation, likely due to its stance on several issues over recent years. This includes the country's opposition to Russia's intervention in Ukraine and its support for other nations within Eastern Europe. It is essential for U.S. officials to recognize their role in these diplomatic matters and strive to create strong, lasting relationships with countries around the world. Through cooperation, understanding, and open dialogue, we can work towards a more positive future for all involved and make sure that our actions are seen as just by global citizens. Number 18, Belarus. 69% of citizens in Belarus expressed disapproval in a recent survey. It is likely that economic issues are at the root of this problem, as studies have found that countries in difficult economic situations are more likely to harbor negative feelings towards America. This nation's financial woes make it no exception and must be taken into consideration when discussing its political stance. It is essential for U.S. officials to recognize their role in these international matters and strive to create strong relationships with other nations around the world. Through open dialogue and cooperation, we can be sure to make positive progress towards a brighter future for all involved. Number 17, Lebanon. Since 2007, the U.S. has placed various conditions on the annual aid it provides to Lebanon. This has likely led to a 57% unfavorable rating of Americans in the country. However, it is worth noting that the United States is not Lebanon's only source of disapproval. The European Union and Germany specifically have dismal approval ratings as well. This could be due to a multitude of reasons, including economic and cultural disparities. But most importantly, it highlights how crucial it is for global citizens to recognize their role in creating lasting relationships with other nations. Number 16, Argentina. A majority of Argentines view the United States unfavorably, with 57% expressing a lack of trust for U.S. actions in the world, according to the Argentine Post. This distrust can largely be attributed to the way Americans from the United States refer to themselves as simply Americans, even though that title also belongs to those from other countries in South America. Such behavior has been perceived as disrespectful and insulting, and it is understandable why this would lead to a negative opinion of the U.S., particularly in regions where members of the public feel erased or ignored by their counterparts overseas. It is therefore essential for people across nations to recognize each other's right to self-determination and accept cultural differences with an open mind, rather than projecting their own language and values onto others. Number 15, Austria. According to MarketWatch, Austria has a 55% disapproval rating of the U.S., and much of the sentiment can be traced back to something seemingly trivial: fast food. It appears that many Americans are not very adventurous when it comes to trying out Austrian cuisine, leading locals to believe that they are afraid of anything outside what they're used to. This is an example of how small misunderstandings can have a huge impact on the way people perceive each other across countries. In the face of globalization, it is increasingly important for us all to make an effort in learning about different cultures and cuisines, and attempt to bridge divides rather than widen them. Number 14, Slovenia. Slovenians have a 54% unfavorable view of the United States, primarily due to their disapproval of our current leadership. However, this opinion did not appear to waver when Melania Trump, who was born in the country, was serving as First Lady. While it is understandable that personal politics can shape one's perception of a nation and its people, another potential explanation could be Slovenia's close ties with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. This period of strong ideological conflict left deep divisions in many parts of Europe, and it is likely that some of the lingering resentment still influences how people from these nations view America today. It is essential for us all to understand how history has shaped our present-day views, in order to move forward and build bridges between cultures and beliefs. Number 13, Tunisia. The anti-Islamic film Innocence of Muslims, which was posted online by a U.S. resident, is largely seen as the key factor in Tunisia's unfavorable view of America at 47%. Although this incident has created tensions between the two nations, American relations with Tunisia in the past have often been warm and cordial. Thus, it is not too far-fetched to believe that our relationship can be repaired and improved upon given the right circumstances. Through mutual understanding and respect, we can strive to bridge the divide between us and embark on a new journey towards peace. Furthermore, it is essential for us to remain open-minded about cultures different from our own, so as to foster international unity through inclusion and empathy. Number 12, Pakistan. Since the September 11th attacks, the United States has focused much of its attention on Pakistan, which has resulted in a military presence that has contributed to 59% to 65% of Pakistanis having an unfavorable view of us. This disfavor towards our country only worsened after Osama bin Laden was found and killed within Pakistani borders. Despite this seemingly difficult situation, we must remain committed to building and strengthening ties with Pakistan in order to improve the perception held by many of its citizens. We can strive to reach out and foster meaningful dialogue with the nation, while also demonstrating that our efforts in Pakistan will always prioritize cooperation over confrontation. As tension eases between us, peace can become a reality that benefits both countries immensely. Number 11, Chile. Although only a little over half of Chileans view the United States in a positive light, with 47% having an unfavorable opinion of us, this does not mean our relationship with them is out of the question. In fact, the U.S. State Department considers Chile one of its strongest partners in Latin America, indicating our commitment to fostering a stronger bond between us and this South American country. We must strive to bridge any gaps that exist between us by demonstrating to them our dedication to working together for a better future. This includes ensuring that we promote fairness, respect, and understanding between both countries, so as to help foster the necessary trust needed for our relationship to continue its growth. With honest dialogue and mutual goodwill, there is no doubt that Chile can become one of our closest allies in Latin America. Number 10, Australia. Australia's unfavorability rating towards the United States currently stands at 64%, a figure that appears to be largely driven by many Australians' unfavorable views of both President George W. Bush and President Donald Trump. The strained relationship between us does not seem to be improving, as many Australians believe that America is in a chaotic battle of opposing views. We must strive to demonstrate our commitment to promoting peaceful dialogue and international cooperation, while also emphasizing that the United States is willing to listen and learn from those who hold different opinions. By engaging directly with Australia, we can work together on important projects and help create an environment of mutual understanding and trust. Number 9, Canada. Although our northern neighbor Canada currently holds a 51% disapproval rating of the United States, this does not tell us the full story. It is true that much of this disapproval can be attributed to the Canadian people's dissatisfaction with President Donald Trump and his policies. However, it is also worth noting that anti-American rhetoric has been an effective tool used in many Canadian political campaigns since as early as 1891. This begs the question, how much of the current hate towards Americans is genuine and how much of it is simply driven by political gain? To truly understand what lies beneath these negative perceptions and cultivate a better relationship between us, we must begin to engage in meaningful dialogue about our respective issues and values. Number 8, Netherlands. It appears that the majority of Dutch citizens, 69%, have a rather poor opinion of Americans, commonly viewing them to be ignorant, fat, racist, and paranoid extremists. This could not be further from the truth. However, it is clear that negative stereotypes about American culture and values exist in many corners of the world. Fortunately, though, many Dutch citizens are hopeful that these inaccurate depictions will slowly fade away into obscurity. To help facilitate this process and ensure our international relations improve moving forward, we must actively challenge any misconceptions or unfounded accusations by engaging in meaningful dialogue with those who hold opposing views. By doing so, we can promote a more positive perception of America abroad and demonstrate our commitment to peaceful cooperation amongst all nations regardless of their political beliefs. Number 7, Mexico. Mexico currently holds an unfavorable opinion of the United States, with 65% of citizens disapproving of us. Many people blame this on former President Donald Trump and his apparent xenophobic tendencies. While we cannot deny that he certainly contributed to Mexico's hostility, it is important to note that our relationship with Mexico has been strained for centuries due to a number of territorial battles fought in the 1800s. Additionally, issues surrounding illegal immigration have shown no sign of abating and remain a point of contention between both countries today. In order to mitigate any further tensions that may arise from this complex issue, it is essential that we enter meaningful discussions with the Mexican government in order to establish strong ties between us and ultimately ensure better relations moving forward. Number 6, Tajikistan. Tajikistan is a predominantly Muslim country with a 54% disapproval rating of the United States and other countries around the world. This negative sentiment has grown in recent years, and it appears that many citizens of Tajikistan view other regions, such as Europe and China, in an unfavorable light. The reasons for this could be attributed to various factors such as religious differences, cultural clashes, economic status, or geopolitical tensions. Nevertheless, it is essential that both parties enter into meaningful dialogue in order to address any issues that may exist between them. By understanding one another's views and coming together peacefully, we can bring healing to any rifts that have formed over time and ensure better relations between countries moving forward. Number 5. Iraq. Iraq currently holds a 67% disapproval rating of the United States and other countries around the world. This is largely attributed to their experiences with war, as Iraq has been torn apart by conflict over the last several decades. It's no surprise that this country would have such little faith in foreign governments due to the destruction it has endured. However, it is essential that both sides enter into meaningful dialogue in order to address any issues that may exist between them. By understanding one another's perspectives and coming together peacefully, we can heal any rifts between nations and ensure better relations going forward. Number 4. Belgium. Belgium is a country with a complex history, boasting several different national languages. This is proof of their overall amicable disposition towards different cultures and languages. However, it appears that this sentiment does not extend to the United States. In fact, a staggering 75% disapproval rating has been given to the U.S. in a recent 2020 survey. This is indicative of a deep rift between the two countries and suggests that many Belgians hold negative views on Americans in general. It is therefore important for both parties to come together and work towards understanding one another's positions in order to create better relations going forward. Number 3. Sweden. Despite their similarities, Sweden and Canada do differ in one major way: their view on the United States. With a disapproval score of 65%, it's clear that Swedish people have largely lost faith in America. This might be attributed to Donald Trump's divisive politics and his attempts to alienate the country from its allies. Additionally, some Swedes have a negative perception of liberal Americans who they perceive as having an unhealthy Sweden fetish due to viewing the country as a liberal wonderland. Nonetheless, it is important for both sides to engage in meaningful dialogue in order to rebuild any bridges that may have been broken by President Trump and restore trust between countries. Number 2. Spain. The United States' handling of the coronavirus pandemic in 2020, coupled with the unsavory Trump administration, has undoubtedly hurt its reputation in Europe. This is especially true for Spain, which currently holds a disapproval rating of 58%. It is clear that the country's views on America's response to the pandemic are shared by most of its European counterparts. To make matters worse, this disapproval rating only seems to be getting higher as time goes on, and no signs of improvement can be seen in sight. It will therefore require swift action from both sides in order to restore goodwill between these countries. Number 1. China. The United States' relationship with China has been deteriorating rapidly in recent years, with escalating trade issues contributing significantly to this decline. This deterioration has been reflected in their current disapproval rating of 49%, and it is only getting worse due to the ongoing trade conflicts and the coronavirus outbreak. Despite the overwhelming evidence of tensions between the two countries, there is still some hope for a better future. Steps must be taken by both sides to repair any damages that have been caused and build a healthier relationship for mutual benefit. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.